Okay, so the next thing I'm going to show you is what you do with a lead after you have them in the system. Okay, a lead that you've added manually. All right, so this is the manual add. We already went through that. Remember the notes we put in here, and they're in new. Now, regardless of how a lead comes in, we want to get them out of new as soon as possible. Okay, so if this is a lead that you put in manually, then it means they're your sphere, or you talk to them on the phone because of a sign call, or you met them at an open house or something like that, right? Regardless of where it came from, the first thing you want to do is log a call and put notes in. So you're going to say talk to prospect, okay? Because we want to make sure that the system reflects that everyone has been talked to, okay? So even if you met them in person, because you added them manually, you're going to record it as a call by clicking on this and talk to prospect, okay? So you're going to say, you know, SOI lead looking in Topsail, see notes, which you already added to the top of the screen. You already added a to-do, so you don't need to add one now, but anytime you log a call or something like this, you can go in and add a to-do this way, just like you did for the other. So we're not going to add a to-do now. We're just going to click cancel to-do and click save. And you see now it's logged a call up here. Mm-hmm. So it shows that they've been communicated with, and it logged it right here.
Okay.
So this is your history that you can always see their activity, the communications, etc. So it's easy when you have 1,000 leads in the system to go back and know what's going on with folks.
Right.
You have to log things appropriately and put notes in the right way so you've got something to read before you call them when you're doing prospecting. So we want to also, after we log that call, get them out of new as soon as possible. Okay. So in this one, you didn't necessarily have a time frame. Hopefully you're going to get a time frame. So in that instance, we'll just put in nurture. Okay. Which is not hot, which means it's not in the next month or two, but it's not more than 6 months out.
Right.
And so you'll refresh and you'll see that everything is updated in here. You don't have any smart drip plans. We're not going to talk about that right now. Okay. But the next thing you are going to do is build a search for them, because you want to start providing value and start sending them homes based on what they were looking for.
Right.
So when people come on the website organically, they're going to have search history.
Right.
They do a Boomtown ad or something like that, you're going to be able to see here what they were looking at. Okay. Mm-hmm. In this instance, you don't have that history, so you can't use a system alert, which is based on their activity. You're going to do a blank one based on what you know their criteria is. Again, because you've talked to these folks before adding them to the site. So we're going to click blanky alert. And then we're going to come in here and build the search based on what they were looking at. Now, you can do it one of two ways. You can use this polygon tool and just draw. If it'll let me. Draw an area like this based on their criteria. Now it's only going to search the shaded area. Or you can go by location. And you can go by location, area, city, county, zip code, neighborhood, specific school, or specific school district. Now, unless your folks are very particular, I just try to go by, city or area, which are a little redundant. Sometimes I won't use city because I don't want it to limit to city limits. Like, for example, I live in Raleigh, but not in the city limits.
Yeah.
So I would just do area. These are different areas that you can use based on which MLS you're in. Also, you can do location, which are the bigger locations on our area that we focus on. Like on the main site, it lists our top areas.
Yeah.
For the purpose of what we're doing, I would stick to city because the area more or less applies to the triangle, because we have MLS area codes here. You don't have those at the coast. So just understanding the difference. Okay. So for you, I would use city or zip code, or maybe county if they're a little bit more open. But let's just pretend that they, like we put in our notes, they're looking in Topsail Beach, that is. So we're going to scroll down to Topsail Beach. Okay.
Okay.
Let's make sure we go take that out, and then you can see that's assigned to there. Now I'm going to go back and here, let's refresh that because I don't want to use the polygon tool for now. I just want to use the location. So you can only do it one of two ways typically. You want to keep it either you're going to use the criteria that's only the polygon or only the city. You don't want to use overlapping criteria up here at the top like that. For more difficult folks, you might draw that polygon. For people who know it's just a particular city or cities, you can just use the city from the drop down. So we're going to go to Topsail Beach and add that. You can see it's there. Say they're only looking at single family, and we said up to 400, right? That was the only criteria we used. Now, when you're building these searches, you don't want to be too detailed. You want to keep it broad unless this number is really, really high.
Right.
Okay. So you know what? You've got a client who's looking for a single family home in Topsail Beach, and their limit is $400,000. Well, guess what? There's only two. So which one's it going to be, right?
You better act now.
If you click on that, if you click right click and then open in the new tab, you can see everything that matches.
Okay.
See how easy that is?
Yeah.
And just for your folks' benefit, when you build the search for them and they get the results, they're going to get the email. And I'll show you later, we set up the frequency, but what you want to remind them is, hey, anytime you go to the website and you sign in up here and you click on your saved searches and look there, the search that I built for you is going to be right there. You can click on it at any moment in time and see everything that currently matches your search.
Right.
So make sure your people know that, because they might delete an email and be like, oh, I saw one, but I can't remember where it was. Yeah. Well, go there and look. And you can go there and look too for them. You just come in here and click on their search and look.
And now, so we were talking the other day, and someone was talking about how their client went in and was looking at like $1 million homes, right? And they were only approved for 200,000. So in that instance, that's when you would also want to go in here and create a blank one for them, because obviously they're not going to be just sending $1 million listings is kind of counterproductive, right? If they're only pre-approved for $200,000, let's say.
Right.
So not necessarily based off of their activity, but based off of the information that you get from them is where you're going to build this search.
Correct. You're going to have a conversation with them. Now, and we'll talk about this differently. If it's an organic lead that comes in that you haven't spoke with, then that's going to be a little bit different, how you're going to approach building that search, right? Because if you've talked to someone you know specifically, if you haven't talked to them and they're looking at properties from 200 to 1.5 million, you don't know.
Right.
You probably have an idea. So again, that's a little bit different. We're more focused on just building it for people that you've had a conversation with at this point, which is why you've put them in Boomtown.
Right.
So just table that for a little bit.
Okay.
Let's try and give you a little bit more info really quickly, just to make this a little bit larger. Just give me a second. That's fine. He left, so. So now I'm going to change it just to show you what happens if you get more. So Wilmington, now there are 515 properties that are under $400,000. So now we can have a little bit different conversation about other things, right? Okay, well, we know their max is 400. Their minimum is 300 because there should be plenty of properties in that range, right? So now 239, still way too many. So bedrooms, well, we know they need at least 4 bedrooms and they need at least 2 bathrooms, right? And that gives us 112. Well, that's great, but still way too many. All right, well, we know they need at least a 2-car garage and they need at least a quarter of an acre, okay? 50, all right, we're getting there. All right, they don't want a home older than, let's say, 2,000. All right, now 24, we're really getting somewhere. All right, square footage. All right, they want nothing less than 2,000 square feet. 24, okay. Not bad, but still maybe room for improvement, okay? So the rest of this criteria here, I don't advise using that often, okay? And here's why. If the listing agent hasn't marked it correctly in MLS, we might accidentally exclude properties.
Right.
that would be a really good fit for them. So
Yeah.
when you are building this for your folks in person, maybe at a buyer consult, you want to explain that we want to keep the criteria more broad unless we've got so many that we can't weed through. All
Yeah.
right. 24 is very workable. So we don't need to get more specific than that. Now, what I would recommend is, maybe they want to be no HOA.
Right.
So you might click that, and then we've got one property. Well, hey, sorry you don't like HOAs. It's going to make your search real easy, right?
Right.
Or, I try to leave these out just because, again, they're so specific. What I will use is main floor bedroom or master downstairs
Right.
or master upstairs. So you see with master upstairs, we're still at 24. If we go to master downstairs, 16.
Well, that's weird.
It is.
Those houses must have 2.
And that gives you a good idea of why you don't want to get too in the weeds with this, because obviously there's some conflicting information, right?
Right.
So we try and keep it broad. Now, sometimes you'll get people who want to look for distressed properties. That's not going to apply to the coast. So don't use these down there. That only applies to the triangle. MLS at the coast doesn't allow you to sort that way on IDX sites, which is what our site is considered. It's a feeder site, okay? You can search for that in MLS, and if you've got a client who's looking for that specific type of property, you have to build a search through MLS, forward it to you, and then you forward it to them.
Okay.
So moving on down, this is a good one to build. We can go forward with it because there are 24 properties, okay? And just a reminder, you can right-click on this and see everything that matches. See, you can see new, price reduced, how long they've been on the market, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera.
Okay.
And then you're going to want to come down here and finish building it, okay? So you see it's going to go to you, since that's the name of the lead. It's a buyer alert. It's going to be sent by the buyer agent, which is you. Email subject, this is how I always title them, something like this. Options for Dustin from Dustin at the Oceanair Realty. Just so it's, because sometimes you're building these for people you haven't spoken with, and you want to get that name and company recognition.
Right.
And then you can change it. So I always start with daily. If you get someone who's 6 months out, you might do it only twice a week. If you've got someone who's a year out, you might do weekly. If you've got someone who's a hot lead and you know it, you might change it to instantly. In that instance, I'm going to copy myself, my agent email, and put there and then save that as well. So it comes to me as their agent, but also them. So I'm getting the notifications to say, hey, Dustin, did you see this home that just popped up?
Right.
You see what I'm saying? I don't do that for all leads, only hot. Okay.
Yeah.
So we're pretending this is a nurture lead. We're just going to stick with daily. Listing status, active, any length of time. You're not interested in sending them under contract, pending, or sold, so don't do those. Leave, price reduced, listing included, no preference, and then ignore this. You don't really, all these searches aren't going to apply to everybody, so you don't really need to save these as a template. But we've got the criteria there. We're going to hit save search. And then when you come back here, you're going to see that now there's an e-alert for them. And this is your e-alert.
Okay.
Okay. And you can see an overview of what the criteria is. It's always going to be within the first hour that the first one is sent out, and then it'll go out daily or instantly or however, depending on how you have it set up.
Right.
If you ever have to edit, you can click edit here, or you can click right here and go in and change the criteria. When they start looking at homes and make an offer, you want to unsubscribe and stop sending them options so they stay focused on what's in front of them. If you need to completely scrap it and start over, you can just unsubscribe or hit delete, either way.
Unsubscribe when they make an offer.
Yes. And then if it doesn't work out, you can always turn it back on, but you don't want them getting distracted once they've determined or decided to make an offer. Any questions about that?
With instantly, that'll show up as an e-alert, but how do you have to go back in there and manually redo it? Like, let's say they look at it and they say, oh, whatever. Then that's obviously not going to be set up on a schedule like it would be if it was daily or bi-weekly, right?
Instantly, it's when properties hit the MLS. An hour after that, our site updates every 60 minutes.
I got you.
So if a property comes out at 11 o'clock that matches their criteria, they'll probably get it about an hour later.
Okay, I got you. So it is set up on a schedule. It's just as soon as they hit the MLS, it'll be hitting there within an hour.
Basically, yes.
Gotcha. Okay.
All right. We're good with that. So we have talked about how to build a search.
I do have one other question.
Go for it.
What is your ideal number that you shoot for when building this e-alert? So you know how we went through all the options when it was 500 and got it down to 24. What is your ideal number?
Under 25.
Okay.
If they're further out and have questions about where they're looking and are kind of, maybe they're Topsail, Surf City, and North Topsail, or maybe they're Hampstead, Wilmington, Leland.
Mm-hmm.
And they're 6 months out, you might want to keep it a little more broad just to help them identify neighborhoods and areas to focus on when they're ready to start looking at homes. If they're ready, you really want it at 25 or less because you don't want to show 20 homes.
Right.
And you shouldn't have to because people know.
Yeah.
If somebody asks to see 20 homes, they know they're not interested in buying all 20 of those.
Yeah.
So then you're going to say, well, let's start with your top 5. And if none of those work out, we'll revisit some of the other ones.
Mm-hmm.
Make sense?
It does.
Okay, good stuff.